I'm blind, crippled, and crazy, so don't mess with me. My wife and I were the 22nd keepers of the Aransas Pass light station, and that's pretty neat. I like that. So we restored the lighthouse and lived there for 19 years. We moved back after retirement of sorts and opened a museum and then opened the boat works. And we wanted to come to some place in Texas where the coast was still pristine before it got developed. And the timing was just right. Okay, hold on. So this lady was turned out of the old Farley boat shop. It was one of the latter boats to come out of the third shop. And we know who it was built for. We know when it was used. We know an awful lot about it. And there's some really cool stories that go with it. But since the family's still alive, I can't relate them all. But there's a romance involved. This is how Port Aransas got established as the tarpon capital of the world. And this is the way the boats were set up. This is a Generation 1 Port Aransas skiff. Generation 1 were rowboats. We used to take people fishing in rowboats. This is a prototype. We're creating a brand new Port Aransas skiff. This one got a little damp. So this dates back to, let's say, 1870s. We've been building these skiffs. Our town was very much a boat town. A lot of boat builders were here. Everybody relied on the water for their living, period. Either you took people fishing or you provided them a place to stay while they went fishing, or you sold them groceries so they could feed themselves, or you had a restaurant. And in some cases, we had a few whiskey joints where maybe they could party if they had a little party left. So that was our town. It was a fishing town. And then it changed, and now it's a real estate town. So the primary urge in town now is to develop.
Port Aransas, we are the closest people. It is so weird. We are so safe here. We go fishing in the middle of the night, and I don't have to worry about trouble or anybody bothering us. And everybody is so kind.
Wow, this is such a natural, organic place that hasn't been lost to the commercial world of other destinations. A lot of people know Port A, especially in Texas. When you talk to them about Port A, they have the fondest memories of, that's where my heart is, that's where my best memories are, that's where my best family memories are. The memories are because of the ambiance that Port A is known. People come here because they know they can be who they are, and they come and they recharge and engage that. And that's what makes us so unique. And one of the coolest things that describes us is people say, well, Port A, it's a drinking town with a fishing problem.
It has a unique kind of an old funky vibe, a bunch of old hippies, a bunch of people that are kind of service-oriented folks, and then there are a bunch of people that have million-dollar second homes. But we all meld together into one unique community.
Good people, man. Everybody that lives in this park is, from other places. They come here. Most of the people who live in the park work here, right? They don't make a lot of money, but they live happy here, and it's not too bad. But the thing is that the cost of living is going up. The owners of the business here make a killing because it's a seasonal town. But the people that work here, most of them just make minimum wage, and we all have our issues and stuff, but it's hard to get by like that. If you got a family and kids, it's really tough.
Yeah, it was great. It was a great little beach town to live in. Really tight-knit community. Everybody knew everyone. Port Aransas and Rockport are really small, so those businesses rely on tourists. And so, they're infamous. We know all of those places. We've been there.
Rockport is a vacation destination. We have people that have second homes, we have people that have vacation homes, and there's a dividing line between the income brackets. You have those people, and then you have the people that take care of those people, and that take care of the tourists that are here on vacation. I'm pretty sure most of you know we had a little storm here not long ago and kind of disrupted everybody's world.
We've had close calls. We've never had one like this before since I've been in Texas, and that's been since '82.
So where do you want me to start? Thursday when we got the shit scared out of us that it was going to be more than a 70 mile an hour. That was bad. It was only going to hit us at 75, and we've had 70 mile an hour wind before. Makes them wiggle, but not me. So within a day, it was going to be a Cat 4.
So in that 120-hour battle rhythm, we lost the first 100 hours. So we had to do 5 days of preparations, not only for the city, but in our own lives, in about 28 hours.
I'm glad I didn't try to ride it out. The lady at the front rode it out, and she's 60-something years old. And she was scared Tuesday when they were talking about 70 mile an hour wind. So I can't imagine that. I know she's a changed lady right now.
So we've heard that you rode out the storm.
It's a rumor.
It's a rumor?
No, I did. The hurricane was coming Thursday, they thought. Well, I was at work, and in the morning, it was supposed to be a tropical storm. Maybe a Category 1 at the most. Not too bad.
Because originally, we were just going to have a tropical storm, which sounded like fun. So we were all going to stay, and everything was cool. And then it was maybe going to be a hurricane. Then it was definitely going to be a hurricane, and it was maybe going to be a Cat 2. Maybe that's not going to be so much fun.
So I got off of work that afternoon, and, now they're talking like a 2, 3, getting stronger. And I just never thought it was really going to get that bad. And so I asked a friend of mine who lives down here about a half a mile with a brick house, structurally very strong, if I could stay with him instead of my trailer, and he said no problem. So I stayed over there, and we sat in the backyard because it was protected by his awning with the rain and the wind and all. It was like 60, 70 mile an hour late afternoon. And he has a tree in the backyard, and I took some pictures of that. It was swaying pretty good, and we went inside for some reason, came back out, and the tree was down. I mean, the roots were sticking up. It came down.
A Cat 4 storm is a horrible thing to have visit you. There's just no describing it. I mean, from start to finish, it's a terrible experience.
We didn't get Category 4 here. I've seen what Category 4 does. It would have wiped this place off the map completely. It'd all be in a bay.
I believe, and many people around here believe, that it actually was a 5 because of the wind speeds. From what we've heard, they lost their wind gauges, the wind meters, to measure how strong the gusts were. They were destroyed. So how could they guess or tell you how fast the wind was blowing? So a lot of us really think, seeing the damage, it had to have been a 5. So we never had anything like this before. I think they said the last one that really heavily hit was Hurricane Celia, and I think they said that was in 70, I think it was. So nothing that I've ever experienced. I'm 44, born in 73, been here since 82, and nothing. As they said, it's been 47 years since we've had any type of storm.
I remember the first one was in 1959. I was still just a critter, man. That was also Category 5, but it didn't hit here. It hit further up the coast. It destroyed everything. It destroyed all the old wooden causeways that were there that I remember as growing up as a kid.
Yeah, it was it's hard to describe unless you know, you always hear on TV the cliches about people say, you know, but you really don't realize it until you go through something like that. You know, it's like people say the planes, the aerial views, because I didn't see any TV for a week, but like they all say the aerial views they saw of Port Aransas, you know, they could pick out different things, but when they actually got here, it was a lot worse than what they saw on TV, you know, and it's just crazy. It really is. It was bad, and we couldn't have left, you know, because it was just building so quick. And so we went to bed. I was staying in his daughter's bedroom, and it was about 10:30 that night. I heard him yell, "Well, Sharon, we're underwater." And when he yelled at me, he jumped out of bed. The water was ankle deep. By the time I jumped out of bed, 2 seconds later, it was to my knees. It was coming in that fast. I wasn't scared to death, because that's what people ask me, weren't you scared? It's like you didn't have time to be scared. You're thinking about, I want to survive, what do I have to do? You know, I got my flashlight, I got this, you know, and worst case scenario and what I need to do next. You just don't have time to panic. It's afterwards you think about, God, I wasn't scared. The water had blown he has 2 big wooden front doors that blew the one door off the hinges, and it was just like a wall of water came in. And he opened the back doors, the sliding glass doors, thinking the water would rush out. Well, it just came in that side too. It was like a washing machine. His couch, his great big leather couch, was floating upside down, and his dog was on there crying, and he grabbed the dog, threw it on the kitchen counter, and that's where we stayed for about 3 hours.
The storm hit. The eye actually did pass right over this house. It was kind of crazy. I was tracking it, and I have friends that are in the volunteer fire department in Fulton, so they were live feeding what's going on, and it was surreal. It was really, really odd.
You know, you're trying to think of things. Don't lose your cool, you know. So, but I guess it would just be, you know, after the fact, it's life-changing. But right during it, you know, it's just, you're just trying to survive. Just think. You got to think, because you don't know what's going to happen. Like the roof might come down, you just got to think, because you don't have time to be scared, or, you know, it's action and reaction, you know. You really don't, you just do. You do what you have to do.
On a personal note, I live in an area that nobody ever dreamed something like this would happen to. We're not near one of the main bayous in town. The whole neighborhood was designed with a levee system, engineered by like the Corps. I mean, it wasn't supposed to happen to us. And we got hit, my neighborhood got hit with tornadoes 2 days before the hurricane. And in one night, 50 homes were almost destroyed. And the next morning, I drove down to that area that got hit, and I was there by 10 o'clock, and you couldn't even get down the street because all of the debris and all of the wreckage was already being taken out of the house. And it was beyond surreal.
The damage here economically, environmentally, very big. And the problem was we're not going to know that for several weeks because the rain is lingering, the flood is lingering so much. It takes a lot of time to sort through.
Well, the reason that the water got us here, I mean, last year they said because of the levees that they opened from San Antonio, so we got all the water. But it was more because we got all the Houston's water that stayed down there, and then because they opened, I guess, more levees down over there. I don't know what happened, that we got even more water this year than last year. We were over there and we were looking at the news, and all of a sudden they told us, I mean, that Houston was getting flooded, so it got even more stressful, and then we had to wait until, I guess, the water went down in Houston to come back to Angleton. And then we stayed in Angleton for 2 weeks, and then they told us the water was cleared here, so I guess we just decided to come and put everything down until, like, the whole house was ruined. Pues la inundación el año pasado fue más devastante que este año porque pues, era la primera vez que pasaba, y sí fue más porque el año pasado sí perdimos lo que era todo, muebles, camas, todo estufa, micro. Pero este año, pues como ya sabíamos cómo se iban a ver las cosas, pusimos muchas cosas para el segundo piso y ya no fue muy devastante. Pero sí afecta lo que es bastante.
Everywhere you live, there's a version of this. There's a version of a disturbance in the natural social order of your life. And you don't think about it. You know, you go day to day and you kind of get wrapped up in, you know, what you're gonna eat, what you're gonna wear, you know, who you're talking to, your job, everything. And you don't realize how quickly things can change.
My initial response was, this isn't so bad. You know, I was expecting kind of a Bolivar Peninsula scene where everything was knocked down and crashed down. But I think it was a defense mechanism that kind of lets you, it was too much to absorb at once coming in. And every time I drove through town for the first week, it seemed to be worse and worse every time. When we came in, they said the sun was coming up, and we immediately started search and rescue operations on our way into town. We didn't wait to rally. As we passed the Pioneer Trailer Park, for example, we could tell that all those trailers were dumped over. So we started taking officers that were peeling off out of our convoy to go ahead and start search and rescue operations in those areas that were obviously heavily damaged. And then we made our way here to the community center, or to the civic center here, which is the predetermined source of operations. This was going to be our rally point coming in. We didn't know whether it would be standing or not, but we at least knew where we were going to meet and start our operations.
We started walking to where I work at Woody Sports Center over here. And I knew if any place survived, because it's high, you know, I thought, well, we'll walk there. And we walked there, and I mean, it was just power lines down all over. I mean, it's just like they say, you know, you always hear, it's just like a bomb went off. It's exactly like that.
Looked like a war zone. Never seen anything like that. I actually went to New Orleans after Katrina, and so I saw what a hurricane can do, but seeing it happen in a place that you grew up and a place that has so many memories associated with it is just a whole new level and completely different. It was heartbreaking. Just to see family homes that you grew up in and a house that I grew up in for half my life just completely demolished was, yeah, emotional, definitely.
We finally saw drone shots of the park. And I knew my trailer was here. I could see that everybody else's wasn't. And I saw the first video of it when my friend came through here. I didn't really know what was going on. And she showed us the first video. And I knew I needed to come back. I needed to see what was happening here.
I walked down the street from work, because Woody's is only like 3 blocks away, so I walked, and I came down the street, and I saw my trailer. It was down in the nose where it had been washed out, but it was still standing, and there were like 6 trailers in here that were either upside down or on their sides. So when I saw mine standing, I was happy.
We thought, whew, we dodged that one. Came in Monday morning, and it was all on the floor. Sheetrock, insulation, it was a mess.
But there was 12 inches of water inside, so it's, you know, pretty much ruined. It's like if you go down to the beach right now, I went the other day for the first time, got a ride down there and looked at the jetties and the beach. It's totally different. It's like a totally different beach.
So a jetty is a man-made structure. There'll be channels where the barges come through to dock in the bay and offload their, you know, equipment or whatever they're hauling. And the jetties will be lined up alongside that channel to create some protection for that channel to remain intact.
The jetties are totally, I mean, we're talking granite rocks that weigh, you know, how many thousands of tons.
And huge, I mean, big rocks, as big as a house.
Moved. The channel is moved. I mean, everything is just different. It's just crazy.
27 trillion gallons of water was dumped over Texas and Louisiana in a matter of 6 days. $75 billion has been lost. Over 72,000 people have been rescued. 215,000 students are now out of school, and 33 Texas counties are under federal disaster declaration.
Your emotions. This is my place. What happened to it? And then you have to get very, very critical and just assess everything.
For the people that are seeing this for the first time, I don't think they expected the power to be out for so long. The power poles down the entire highway went down, so AEP had to come in and put up new poles and run new line. It affected our wastewater treatment. The facility didn't have electricity, so it couldn't process any waste, so you couldn't flush anything or work any drains. That response time, I know some people were getting a little antsy, wanting it to be done right away, but there's so much infrastructure that relies on the power lines that we have here and the sewer lines and the water lines, and it takes a lot to get them back and running again. And the guys that did that, those crews were phenomenal. They were working like the military as hard as they could to get everything back online.
I know like in the Houston area though that like it's been hard for a lot of people, especially after the storm. It wasn't as bad as before. It's just that a lot of people don't have houses or like the means to store their food anymore. So I feel like that's why the need for like food now is so great. All the streets were still flooded and half of our grocery stores were flooded. So basically anything that was low enough that the water could touch it, that had to be immediately thrown away. So there was that issue. And then there was the fact that we knew that a storm was coming, so people were starting to stock up. There were 2-hour lines outside the grocery store. So the supply was already low. And then the supply trucks that needed to get to the grocery stores to stock the shelves couldn't make it there because our streets were flooded. So the shortage was insane for a while because it was already short, and then the grocery stores got flooded, and then there was nothing to replace it. So for a good 2 or 3 days, there was no food basically in like all of Houston.
This debris is going to be taken all over the place to landfills and these special debris management sites that have been set up inside the disaster zone.
The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency warned that Hurricane Harvey caused a potentially dangerous chemical spill from a Houston area Superfund site.
Those are areas contaminated with toxic waste that the Federal Environmental Protection Agency is charged with cleaning up.
While there's this push to get the debris cleared out quickly, groups like the EPA want to make sure it's being done safely.
So that's why you see you'll see around town brush piles, debris. There are people just cleaning out sheetrock, cleaning out insulation, anything they had to do just to clean up the clutter.
So the 95-year-old veteran that I met, he has a Purple Heart. He was shot 4 times in battle. He built his house from the ground up, and his house had like an orange X on it, which means the house is condemned. Because his house had mold in it and stuff like that. So it was a really toxic environment for him to be living in.
You know, there was also a short-term gas shortage, even though they weren't calling it a shortage. You know, I guess when I go to buy gas and I can't get it, I would qualify that as a shortage.
The economy, which in Houston, which is a $500 billion economy, and how it affects the greater economy. Over 20% of the nation's refinery ability has been shut down.
The storm has taken dozens of production platforms offline, and that will have a significant effect on the economy of Texas and gas prices.
Analysts say prices at the pump could jump as high as 25 cents a gallon.
Even if the refineries are okay, if the port has a problem, the shipping channel has a problem, that could really stall things both in the U.S. and around the world.
Pretty hard to find fuel around. Several of the refineries were affected along the coast. That's where most of, Texas gets its gas from. When Harvey hit and the governor sent out the word that state parks would be open to evacuees, as we have been in the past with Katrina. You know, we looked at it and our proximity to the coast and to Houston, which were the affected areas, and we canceled all reservations for recreational campsites. On the front end of it, you know, we started keeping a list of different evacuees' needs, whether that's diapers or toothbrush or cash for gas or whatever. And I was really surprised that nobody had any needs. There was one request for a tent, and that was really it. And after a couple days thinking about that, I realized, you know, that these are the lucky ones. You know, it's the people that walk from their, you know, apartment to their work every day because they don't have a car. They don't have any means to get out of the city that are really hardest hit.
Don't worry, be happy.
I was here up until I was kicked out about 12 hours before the storm. I drove just outside of Corpus to high ground and hung out until I could get back here, which I got back literally that Saturday night, and I wasn't prepared for what I came to.
Me and my buddy load up, and we leave in the middle of the night. Police are just kicking our butts to get off the island, I said, we're leaving, officer. I want to get a few things. We get to Corpus Christi, the Kennedy Causeway. The little causeway wasn't bad. The Kennedy's the little one, right? At Padre Island. The big one, the Harbor Bridge. We crossed that doing 45 miles an hour, top speed, with a big, heavy Chevy van floored. The wind's hitting us at 75 to 80 miles an hour, and rain that you couldn't even see. And we're the only idiots out there.
So we put us all in that little bitty car, got down the road, and all the bands of rain started coming, and we couldn't see anything but an occasional reflector in the road. And we got to Port Lavaca to pick up a friend that had no way out and went back to Pleasanton.
Coming down the highway, it was dark, and we followed in the island road. We came in the island road, and there's about 1.5 or 2 feet of water on the road, but we could see the reflectors in the roadway. So we used our spotlights to light up the reflectors, and of course there were power lines down and debris everywhere. So it was a pretty slow, methodical trip.
And I sat in my aunt's extra bedroom with the Weather Channel forever, watching what that thing was going to do and worrying about how I was going to take care of my son.
We'd try to recommunicate with the command post, which was in Corpus at that time, but we had no communications. So we backed out to North Padre Island, where we were able to reestablish some telephone communications, and requested a front end loader to come in and clear the street. We had close to 98% voluntary compliance with the evacuation order. We live in a hurricane community, even though we haven't had one since 1970. And we do a lot of public education through the paper. We have a town hall forum every year where we discuss with the community evacuation plans. And our community was ready to go, and they knew what to do, and they did it, and it didn't tie up any of our resources. They were able to self-evacuate without any government assistance at all. They were just waiting for the call, and were able to get out.
It's kind of difficult to just pick up and leave and not know if you're going to have anything to come back to. So we were going to stay until they determined that it was going to be a Cat 4. And our friends in Nacogdoches very strongly suggested that we get our happy asses out of here and come to Nacogdoches.
You know, a lot of the times we haven't had to evacuate, or when I evacuated as a child, the hurricane turned last minute and we didn't get rain.
Everybody knew what was going to happen. You know, our mayor got a lot of criticism because he said, you know, he told us not to evacuate. And, you know, a lot of the news media and outlets were saying, hey, that was a bad decision. But it turns out that was a good decision, because having 6 million people try and get on the road and evacuate would have been a disaster.
To tell you the truth, I was a little surprised that he called the mandatory evacuation. but that's what his instincts told him to do. There was not a consensus between the mayor and the county judge and the mayor of Corpus Christi on whether to do a regional mandatory evacuation.
And you're also trying to evacuate, you know, in Houston, 2 million plus people. And even in the small town of Rockport, you know, my family that did get out, it took them 2 hours to get out of town just because everyone was getting out at the same time. So that creates its own hazards. And then you're talking about, you know, gas stations are starting to close down their pumps in preparation for this hurricane to hit.
As it turns out, the county judge and the mayor of Corpus Christi made the correct calls for their communities too. And theirs was a strong urging to evacuate, but they never ordered the mandatory evacuation.
Well, previously we had another hurricane called Rita, and they ordered an evacuation, and more people died trying to evacuate than from the actual storm.
It's awful, and you know, particularly when you're dealing with weather, it's so unpredictable that you know, you're almost in a damned if you do and damned if you don't situation.
This is a natural disaster, you know, and then if it didn't come here, people would say, oh, they're crying wolf. You know, so the government actually, in all forms, local, state, federal, it's, you know, damned if you do, damned if you don't type thing. You know, how many times have we been told to evacuate, we should evacuate, and we never had a hurricane, or it turns north, or it turns south. And oh man, you know, I took so many days off of work, I lost work and boarded up and all this stuff, you know, and it wasn't necessary. It only takes the one, you know, you don't know. You just, when it comes to something like that, that's nature.
We didn't find out for a couple days if we had a home, if I had a business left, what was going on. There was no way to get news. There was no way information in or out. It was kind of scary. It was a really, really tough time not knowing. I think it was on Sunday, the governor had a little clip on one of the news programs, and he actually rolled up to this little shop across the street from the HEB where the National Guard was stationed, and stuck his head in through where my window used to be, and they panned across, and so that was my first view of my shop. So it was just kind of like, yeah, that's gone. So anyway, so I knew we didn't have the shop, but we did know about the house.
We're dead in the water. All of our tools were under 3 feet of salt water. All of our boats have some damage, or some of them are wrecked, and all the buildings were hurt. We had an appointment with a group called TWIA, locally known as TWIA, Texas Windstorm Insurance Agency. Their adjuster, who had put us off twice, was to be here at 9 this morning. He didn't show. He didn't tell us he wasn't going to show, and he didn't answer any calls. We finally got in touch with the agency, and he's in Florida. They sent him to Florida. So we're starting over. So that's part of the bureaucratic tangle.
I gave myself one day to have a pity party. And that was the day we cleaned out what was left of my shop. That was hard, because I built that shop, no loans, no nothing, penny by penny, catering job from catering job. And it's gone. My landlord didn't have insurance. They're not rebuilding the building.
We are literally starting from scratch to rebuild this town. There's not a community that I know can say that, oh yeah, if you're hit by a hurricane, you still got something going. We have nothing going.
You are. The first 2 times I was here, there was no power, no water. This happens in incremental steps. We have power, we have water, we have debris removal. I visited with some teachers moments ago. I think they're going to be opening back up the first week of October. We're going to get these kids back to school and get them the education they need and deserve. Thank you, Governor. Sure.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm just trying to get out of y'all's way.
Yeah, just grab that.
Sorry.
Are you able to get
Go hurry.
Can you tell me when you're out?
Please. Back in.
Can you tell me when you're out?
Please. Back in, please.
devastating. Aftermath and the storm itself is devastating. I don't think that it does anyone any good to ignore the truth and, you know, to pretend like everything's just going to immediately be okay, because it's not. It's going to take a long time. So maybe long term, the effects of this are going to last a while, and people who expect immediate change, immediate results, immediate better. You know, it's going to be a tough hill to climb.
Look, you've had an economy that surprisingly is bigger than the country of Poland, almost devastated.
Almost 10% of U.S. economic output is coming from Texas. That's a really big deal across the country. In some ways, it could be bigger than what we saw in Louisiana with Katrina, just because of Houston's prominence and growing prominence in the economy.
It's going to be more of a regional event as far as job loss and as far as economic destruction. What happened in New Orleans is a bit different because you had people leave and didn't come back.
That is ultimately the key in getting people to stay there and rebuilding and sticking it out and making that part of the nation even better than it was before.
It's not going to happen overnight. Obviously, the sooner they can get the businesses running, the sooner the people that come here as tourists can return, the workforce of the people that live here, all of those things are connected to business.
I'm working with all of our business community to do a timeline of when we could expect our businesses back, and then I can do some projections on cash flow and when our community will be up and operating at 20, 40, 60, 100%. I don't want to say efficiency, it's operational, let's say. The race to get there is still complicated and murky because we don't know what final adjustments were made or what the inspectors are going to say or how we can get materials here and contractors. We don't have anything but our tourism, and so we are shut down literally 100%. There's not a community that's shut down 100%.
But yes, are there opportunities here for big money to come in and buy things at a fire sale price? Perhaps. But there are many, many economic forces that come into play, and a lot of things that unexpected outcomes that everyone scratches their head and wonders, how did that happen? If I'm a banker in this devastated community, do I want to make loans in an area that might not rebuild? Do I want to make loans to people who've lost their jobs and might not go back to work? It's the business of evaluating risk as a banker. I might not want to make those loans as a banker. So that's why the federal government steps in at the governor's request to push money into that community through this program. The SBA will make loans that many banks would never make. I like to say that we're part of the American dream. One of the things, the tenements of the American dream is I'm going to start a business, I'll feed my family, and I'll give this business to my kids when I retire, and I'll create a way of life for myself. That's the American dream. And so normally the SBA is working with banks to pump money into business development. But in a disaster response like this, the SBA is very instrumental in propping up businesses, pumping money into the business community, putting businesses back up and running, putting those people that work there back to employment. Our goal is to help each individual business or homeowner or renter reinvent themselves where they are. One of the very powerful parts of how this program works is the money that folks borrowed during Katrina to rebuild from that disaster. That money that they're paying back is now being loaned to the folks in Texas for Hurricane Harvey. So that money keeps recycling by being in the form of a loan. We have a fiduciary responsibility to make sure that we don't throw away the American taxpayer's dollar, but that's balanced with the need to push this money, inject this money into the communities that need it so badly. In prior lives, we were bankers. So I have a banking background. That's why I understand lending as well as I do. The SBA is going to make a loan that a bank wouldn't make in a location a bank wouldn't go.
And so we do have a higher default ratio than a bank would. We have to know how to process a loan, how to fill out a loan application package, how to talk about financial issues, how to go through all of the paperwork, the red tape that naturally is associated with the government assistance program. But our folks have to also talk to someone who's just lost their home and their neighbors have lost their homes. And this gentleman that came over, he said if something doesn't happen soon, he'll be sleeping in his front yard in the grass. And so that's a tremendous emotional burden and stress on people. We have folks that come to work with our program who very quickly realize that it's not for them. You have to be able to get up and go somewhere across the country tomorrow and work in a horrible post-storm disaster environment with people who are in shell shock. They've just lost everything. We love to.
A series of bureaucrats. There are so many of them. They all go by various initials. Each one of them has his own demands. Each one of them has his own special disorganization, which you have to deal with, and then you have to put them all together. So that's challenge number 2.
I've been here about a week. That's part of what our FEMA mission is. People come from all around the United States to come help out FEMA.
The mission of FEMA is to empower the community to have their own response and recovery in the way that it best serves the community.
Our job is to be here and help stand them up, dust them off, let's get going. Are we going to make them whole? No. But we can get them going in the right direction. We can provide grants to them to get them started on this, help them rebuild their lives in this community. We can help them get low-interest loans through the Small Business Administration.
We have what's called a federal coordinating officer, and they work hand-in-hand with the state coordinating officer, the FCO and the SCO. So those two people are the people kind of at the head of the disaster at the top, and they're the ones that are making those decisions, both working for the community on the federal level and on the state level.
Obviously, we can't get here until the governor asks for our assistance. And for a disaster declaration, he has to ask the President of the United States for us to come in. And the President has to sign it before we even come down here. So as soon as he signs it, we're coming in. And we're here within the thousands of people right now of FEMA.
So we're staying on the ship to free up resources to survivors. And so that all the hotels in the area, they can use in case they don't have a place to go, they need somewhere to go, and they have, a good place to stay and stuff like that. You're living with 54 other people, and you have to learn how to, share the tiny bit of space that you have. Because I know you guys saw downstairs, there's 6 bunks per side, and there's not very much hallway room. So it's definitely a little difficult living with them, but it's pretty cool. It's all about sacrificing for the good of the community.
Because you got to be real careful with FEMA, bless their hearts, and make sure your inspector writes down the correct stuff, because he didn't do it on mine. Told him I had insurance, and I don't.
Estamos buscando ayuda con FEMA. Pero hasta hoy no hemos tenido respuesta alguna. Nos dijeron que venían como dentro de 21 días, pero no, hasta el día no han venido.
But the little FEMA people that were here got all that straight for me. And I'm just thankful that I've got a few people here that can help me get this lined out.
Hasta ahorita muy poca gente ha recibido ayuda de FEMA. Nos iba a ayudar, pero creo que como es demasiada gente, están ayudando conforme entraron las aplicaciones.
With 30,000 people on the ground in Texas alone, FEMA and its budget are maxed out. Since Harvey, FEMA has been spending roughly $9 million an hour. The $8 billion approved by the House today means FEMA likely won't run out of money this week.
This is our FEMA tent. They're on site. They're here every day, I think, from 11 to 1 or 11 to 2. Because the lines in town are so long and so many people are unable to get to them. So I suggested to one of the FEMA volunteers that stopped by that we have a FEMA tent out here. So there they are. I knew my shop was gone, but I knew I still had my big burners, and I knew I still had pots, and I knew I could cook for people who needed food. That's what I do. I'm a chef. I cook.
So Monday, it was either Sunday afternoon or Monday now, I don't remember. There's been a lot of life happened since then. I made this one little post on Facebook, and it blew up. Next thing I know, there are donations pouring in. Well, I get here Tuesday evening. The guys came in on Monday. They cleaned out a lot of the limbs and stuff so I could pull the trailer in. I got here, my Suburban and a 16-foot flatbed trailer. You could not have put one more thing in it, on it, nothing. I mean, it was just there. You couldn't do it. Before we could get the stuff unloaded that we were going to eat, I had 3 more trailers roll in. Okay? Most people that come out here lost everything, or they lost most everything, or they don't have electricity, or they don't have water, and they just need basics. And they come out and you really almost have to force stuff on them. Chapstick, lip balm, deodorant, shampoo, conditioner, toothbrushes, take 2 or 3. A little bit of everything.
Off?
Yeah.
10 by 6.
Oh, you need some off?
I need off.
Okay, let me get you some.
I could pay up to $130 in gas. It's only an hour and a half from here.
Let's get you with Dick. Go around there, go in and talk to Dick. We have resources, baby. We've got stuff we can do. Welcome to my life. Most of the people that are camped back here have jobs. They just don't have homes. So they live here and then they go to their jobs. So we kind of separated that out so that the ones that want to sleep can sleep and the ones that want to stay up and talk or play dominoes or whatever can do that. This is our baby Depo. We have everything you need for babies. We've got formula, food, diapers, wipes, clothes, toys, pacifiers, bottles, sippy cups, you name it. It's over here. And it's everything you see is donated. Everything here is a donation. There is a lady that came to several of the places like this during the height of it, stocked up on diapers, took them back to Corpus. She was from Corpus. She wasn't from Rockport. Took them back to Corpus was videoed sitting in the waiting room at Driscoll's Children's Hospital talking about how she was never going to have to buy diapers for baby showers again because she came out to Rockport and got a bunch of those free diapers. I just want to be able to run into her in town one day. She might have been 3 times my size, but I'm feisty. We've had issues with people coming out, and they'll come out. They think we don't recognize them because they'll come in different vehicles every time, and they'll load those vehicles up 3 or 4 times. And they don't take the good used stuff. They take the stuff with tags. So those are the people that ruin it for everybody else. Looting was a big problem, and looting continues to be a big problem. We don't have a lot of problem here, per se, with looting. We have scumbag lowlifes that are just coming in and loading up on stuff that they don't need, taking it back to Walmart, trying to get money back for it. Honey, let me tell you, the general manager at Walmart called me and said, Sam, I need you to do something for me. Any unopened package that you send out, make sure there's a line through the UPC.
More damaging in situations like this are what we call the Stormchasers, where you'll have contractors that start bombarding an area that has been destroyed, such as Rockport, Port Aransas, Victoria. These areas start to get door-to-door sales. You see a lot of times in areas, we're starting to see it, where they start to ask for a very large down payment. They want the payment in cash, and unfortunately you give them the money because you just want to get back to normal. You give them the money and they leave and you never see them again, and you are still stuck with those repairs that need to be made, and now you're just less that money. So disaster brings some really unscrupulous people to the surface, and so you have to start doing your research.
We had lots of calls the first couple nights of suspicious activity. We have people reporting looting, but looting is really more like a burglary where you go into a building or something like that. And what we've discovered is that the first few days we had scavengers where things were blown out of buildings and into public areas, and they were picking that up. And then as the debris removal started and people were pushing things to the side of the road, we had some issues with out-of-towners coming in and scavenging through those debris fields, which wasn't helpful, but it wasn't necessarily illegal.
Well, people will take advantage. Some people will come in and gather some supplies and just walk out, but we're not going to begrudge them that. If they want to come in here and get those supplies, we'll let them have it because obviously we believe they need it. So we're not just saying, hey, stop. If you need it, take it. But for the most part, people have been kind and caring to one another and not really trying to take advantage of anything because we try and make it easy for them and give them what they need and take care of them in the right way. And when you do that, people usually follow suit. Baker Ripley is a 110-year-old nonprofit agency. We've been working in Houston to just help make this community a lot better. Right now, we are operating a shelter at NRG Center in Houston. Currently, we have about 1,600 guests here who came here for shelter from Hurricane Harvey, and we're just taking care of them, taking care of their immediate needs and helping them in their recovery effort. It's because of Houstonians come together, going into neighborhoods with their boats, walking into the high water, knocking on doors like, can I help you? Let me take you out. Everyone just did a fantastic job around that.
Coming here made me realize how big the need was. Like, it's very televised and you see it on the screen and it's still that's a problem, but you come here and you start volunteering and then it's like, whoa, that's not enough to feed all the people that need it. I just needed to do something.
The food bank is fortunate in that we have a system in place that all we've had to do is amp up. This is the Houston Food Bank on steroids, essentially. What we are doing now is representative of what we do throughout the year, just on a grander scale.
My daughter's choir group from school wanted to donate, fell in love with the place, and I'm still here. The one thing about the Houston Food Bank, I think that makes it so magical, is this is what they do all year round. It's not just an emergency time. It felt it was one thing I could do. Sometimes when you feel helpless, but you come here and there was something to do.
Okay, I am a driver helper at Dunkin' Donuts, DCP. This is actually my hometown. I was born in Louisiana, raised in Houston. It's a lot of people that, lost a lot in this area. But, we're here to support. Yesterday I delivered, loads and loads of water to this plant here at the Houston Food Bank and also the one at the Red Cross.
I grew up kind of poor, so I know what it is sometimes to go to bed hungry, and I don't want that for a child. A child should never have to go to bed hungry, but at this day in this economy, that's kind of hard. These are working families that we're feeding. Sometimes you got to pick between rent and feeding your kids. You got to pick what's more important, a roof over their head or food in their stomach for right now. So to me, I do proud to send these kids a meal because if it weren't for us, some of them would go to bed hungry.
So people just call, hey, can you take this, can you take that? And so we just started making room for it. And next thing we know, we got a gym that's 2/3 full, or it's full capacity of what we can take because the other stuff we had stored in there. We've had an equivalent to about 18-wheeler full of food. Whether it be, we actually had 4 to 5 18-wheelers and then all the small loads, medium loads, to be equivalent to right now about 8 truckloads. But all that came about because I realized that, we're still trying to drain our building and get ours secured and make a game plan. And I knew that eventually the Red Cross and all the other entities would pull out of town and there still need to be assistance somewhere.
There's still a lot of people that don't have refrigeration, they don't have electricity, they don't have any way to keep fresh foods, so we have dry goods. We've got everything from applesauce to raviolis to instant red beans and rice. And anything people bring in, it's a hodgepodge. The hardest thing for me, really, is all of the, oh, you're doing a great job, thank you for what you're doing, thank you, you're doing a wonderful thing, you're such a sweet person. I'm not really a sweet person. I'm really not. I can be a big old bitch. I really can. But somebody helped me figure out how to describe it the other day. If you're standing on top of Mount Everest and you drop a marble and you let it start rolling, that halfway down, that's a pretty damn big marble. And the further it gets, the bigger it gets. All I did was drop the marble.
Unquestionably, natural disasters are destructive. As we stand back and take stock of the loss here, we also ought to take stock of just the amazing acts of philanthropy, charity, generosity, speaking volumes about the hearts of people in Texas and across this nation. I wish that we could measure, the blood, the meals, the favors, the time, the money that people are giving to one another.
Right after the storm passes, everyone wants to come help you. Everybody. So you have to kind of deal with that. You have to schedule things. What can we let you do? That's too dangerous. This requires an expert or whatever.
Volunteers are huge. We need them through American Red Cross, the Salvation Army, food banks. Everybody's volunteering.
No, never done this kind of stuff before, but it feels good, man. You know what I mean? Just to feel, it's awesome.
We rotate through a couple hundred a week from different parts of the state. Everybody's coming in to help out and rotate through. We think we're going to need them for another couple months at least, but they've been great.
It's them. I mean, it's these people sitting over here taking their lunch break, and it's these people that are, this poor guy out there in the sun he's sorting shoes, not socks. Those are the people making this happen.
It brings them closer. It's almost like a shame that it has to take a hurricane for people to act like this, like Christmas every day, you know what I mean? You go to the store, you walk down the street, even strangers, it's hi, how you doing? It's a neat feeling, it really is. It's just too bad it took this for people to realize.
That's how people are supposed to be, and y'all don't get anything but thanks here, and then you go do it for somebody else, and that's the most awesome thing that I've ever seen in my life. I'm hoarse from telling everybody, thank you so much, thank you so much, thank you so much.
Believe in people, believe in the good in people, because they're going to come to help you when you need it the most, and don't be too proud to ask for help, because there's a lot of people that have trouble taking a free meal, or they think somebody needs that bleach bottle more than them, and it's here for everybody.
I've been blown away by the generosity of strangers and people that don't have those connections to, Rockport and these coastal towns that got hit.
I think it's a good feeling. It really is. It's just what Texas does. It's what the community does.
We see it in Aransas and in Rockport, and where everybody's getting, Aransas Pass strong, Rockport strong, Texas strong. It's become a mindset of just, we're going to overcome this.
We are resilient. I know you've had to have had a lot of people say, Houston strong! We're Houston strong, and yes, we are. We are. We will be okay.
H-Town, definitely.
Go Texans!
I can't tell you how much. You've seen it. You've seen how hard everyone is working to recover. Texans are proud.
It's pulled Texas together, and it's pulled surrounding states in, and everybody is ignoring all the, I'm going to say a bad word, bullshit that's going on in the media and going on in everything else, and they're concentrating on how do we fix this. I've not seen the TV news in 22 days, and it's been the most peaceful time in my life. In the middle of this.
So that's our job now. It's a blessing to have a job, right? Well, this is a huge blessing.
We've had trucks from Kentucky, Alabama, the Valley, from Wisconsin.
I think as a nation, I think that is, to pull together is the number one thing to me, you know what I mean? No matter what color, breed, whatever color it is, just pull together, that's what we're about.
Making the best of it, and y'all are making it a lot easier. Thank you.
We owe it to this country to come back.
Chaos, because it is. I mean, it's nuts. Nobody knows where they're going, what they're doing, how to do it, when am I gonna have a house, am I gonna have a house? I mean, it is, it's utter chaos, but it's utter chaos that has brought people together. There is nothing normal in our world right now except football. So that's it. That's the only normal. It's Friday night. We're playing football. That's how it is. Every Friday afternoon, depending on what time the bus is leaving for the football game, my friend brings my daughter back. She's a varsity cheerleader. The coaches were kind of doing cleanup at the football field and in the field house and all that. And the boys just started showing up for practice. They started showing up. They're like, Coach, are we gonna practice today? So they started practicing. And they would practice and then they would go out and clean up yards. This week we're playing in Corpus. Tuloso Midway is who we're playing. We're playing in Corpus. The entire student body from Wiley, Texas is coming to the game to sit on the visitor side. Last week we went to Seguin, and let me just tell you,
They were so wonderful. Their cheerleaders fed our cheerleaders dinner. They had T-shirts made for everybody, the football players, the cheerleaders, everybody. Their band learned our fight song in our alma mater in 2 days and played them for us. I mean, it was amazing. It was great. And all the proceeds from that game, from tickets, they donated to the Rockport Relief.
Wow, Hurricane Harvey. Well, I would say it was a gut punch. Hurricane Harvey was a pretty good gut punch.
It's like day one. I mean, it's changed. It's just, you don't realize things neither. You take little things for granted that it's going to never be the same. I mean, it's life-changing.
As far as disturbance goes, I mean, it can be catastrophic. It can be something that changes the entire course of your life.
Yeah, it's overwhelming. A lot of people have lost everything.
It's sad to see. It can be very tragic, but it's also really heartening. It's a reminder of, I guess, how fragile things can be.
We're going to have little towns that are just wiped out because, not necessarily because of the storm damage itself, but the economy.
Houston's tough. We're a tough group. In the last 2 years, we've had the Tax Day flood and we had the Memorial Day flood. And we bounced back pretty good, but Harvey, I think, as a whole, hit us really, really hard. And it's just real. You know, just the amount of debris that is still there. We're 2 weeks later, and people aren't going to be in their homes for months or a year.
Hang in there. It gets a little bit better every day. Nothing is going to be easy, and nothing is going to be the same for a long time, maybe ever. Be nice to each other. Be kind. You'll get a lot further a lot faster if everyone is just kind to each other and helps each other.
Usually, it's just preparing for sermons, taking care of people, and the widows and the elderly, and things like that of that nature. And but then here since Harvey, it's kind of been the whole world turned flip upside down.
I mean, just have faith and everything's gonna get back as normal as it was. And just, I mean, be praying for God to help you and everything that's going on.
It'll never be the same in several areas on the coast. But we'll continue to move forward. Got to.
We're just going day by day. That's all we can do. We're okay, and we're gonna make it.
Take a deep breath and start again. You know, that's all you can do. You know, just stay strong. You know, prayers are with you. They really are.
It's just a matter of not being broken.
Was the people that don't know us, that think that's what you get for leaving on the coast. I can't leave. I'll never leave. I've known since I was a little kid that I have to be here.
We're going to stand up. Some of us are standing now. We'll be okay.
The power of nature is stunning, and it's one thing to see it on TV, but when you go there and you see it and can really feel it in that place, is a totally different thing. It's amazingly sad and destructive.
Just let there be some toxic water issue in one of your water supplies. It could happen anywhere in the U.S. You know, no one is invulnerable from the kinds of problems that have occurred here. I know most people are saying, well, we'll never have a hurricane, or we'll never have this or that kind of natural disaster. But you know, we take so much for granted in what guides our day-to-day lifestyle, and we assume that the power will always run, we'll always have the internet, we'll always have cable TV, all those things that we now assume are part of our day-to-day life. There'll always be access to put food in the fridge. We're not going to have trouble with that. It can happen anywhere. And that's one of the things that's so powerful about the help we've received from out of state, is that there are so many people who understand, I think on a very gut level, that yes, that could be me. It may not be a hurricane in my community, but at some point there could be something that brings our community to its knees temporarily.
The business community in Port Aransas is trying to recover from they lost their Labor Day weekend crowd. Will they be back in business in time to be ready to greet those spring break kids? That's going to be very difficult. Some will be ready, not all will be ready.
Building and rebuilding are very different. You know, with building, you start with an idea, you create something, and then you make it real.
You have to know that it's a day-by-day process. It's not something that FEMA is going to be able to fix. It's not something that any one community partner is going to be able to fix. It's something that as a collective we can come together and find a new normal. You're never going to have that old house back. It's never going to be the same. So having those expectations, that really healthy expectation of this is going to take a while and it's not going to be the same. It's going to be a different, even when I get back to that normal, it's going to be a different normal.
When you're rebuilding, you try to replace what was torn down. Now, there's a lot of creativity involved in it, can't deny that. But still, you've got a framework there. So the difference in creating something new and recreating something old is subtle but real.
It's heartbreaking to see how vast the destruction is, how vast the suffering is now. And because of what I do professionally, I know that that's going to perpetuate for months and months to come.
It's a huge challenge, but knowing the people that I've met, they'll meet that challenge.
We're coming back like you remembered us, just fresher and a little bigger and ready for you. And that's really going to be the new day in Port A.
My hope is to come back in a year or two and see a thriving community again, and realize that and know that we didn't do the hard work they did, but we helped with the money part of it.
I don't consider myself an emotional person, and I've said I've probably cried more in the last 15 days than I have in the past 15 years. And there are just silly little things that trigger those emotions. And usually it's a hug from somebody who's as strong or stronger than you are, and they're crying.
But we've been working about 22 days nonstop. 10, 12, and 16 hours a day. So we're all a little tired. We're pretty beat up.
That's kind of become my whole life.
This was tied to the schooner, and it went through 130-mile-per-hour hurricane. And the gusts probably were 160. But it's a bit faded. It's a bit tattered, but it came through okay. From idea to reality. And everything in the way, you just have to overcome. Show the world that we can get back on the horse. We've been thrown, but we're going to get back out.
I've been searching the